This is Stan, our 19-foot-long mid-roof all-wheel drive 2021 Ford Transit van, which has been converted into our home away from home, complete with everything we need to enjoy life on the road. Oh, and those two people are Mark and Lisa. The story of Stan really begins with a trip we took to North Carolina in this van that we borrowed from our friend Jeff. We learned that living and traveling in a van suited us very well, and we decided that we would like to find a van of our own. It turns out that van life is currently very popular, and we get many questions from people who are considering a van of their own. So hopefully this video will answer questions folks might have about how to go about doing this. So like most people probably do, we started looking for our van by doing a quick Google search, and right away you'll find the Winnebago site. And there are beautiful vans on here. This one's on a Dodge chassis. There's ones that are on a Mercedes chassis. Let's see, the Revel is on a Mercedes chassis. And we love these, and we thought they have every possible accessory. They seem really, really nice. So we started wondering about them, and we went and looked at one at a dealer. The dealer had no models for sale that we could buy right away, and the wait was over a year. The other issue with these is that the price for one is nearing $200,000, and they're not really customizable. They'll tell you that you can choose things like the color of the fabric or, things like that. But basically, you get what you get. And these had full bathrooms with showers, and it felt really cramped inside. Not to mention that the actual components seemed sort of plasticky and cheap, and we just didn't want to wait a year, and we certainly didn't want to pay $200,000 for a van. So we moved on. So next we visited YouTube because we figured, well, maybe we can do this ourselves. There are literally thousands of videos on YouTube about how to do this. And the more we watched, the more we realized that we are not cut out to build our own van. But watching these videos definitely did give us ideas about things we wanted in our van, things we didn't want in our van. And we definitely had ideas already after borrowing Jeff's van of things we liked and didn't like. We finally found some van conversion companies, and many of them were out west. This one, Sync Vans, is in Idaho. And we really liked their products. They were very nice and willing to talk to us on the phone. This place, Van Smith, looks really nice. They also talked with me on the phone and answered lots of questions. We knew that we wanted our van to be a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicle because we live in the mountains, and we were going to take the van on ski trips. And so we had to rule out all of the van companies that worked only on the Dodge because Dodge doesn't have an all-wheel or four-wheel drive option. So it was either going to be a Mercedes or a Ford Transit. So we narrowed it down to that and looked at companies that worked with those type of vans. We loved a lot of the companies, and they were all really nice. But we settled on this one, East Coast Van Builds. They're located right in Bradford, Vermont. So there was the added benefit of them being somewhat local to where we live in Bolton, Vermont. And they also seemed very meticulous. They work on both Mercedes and Ford Transits. So, and they were willing to look for a van for us or for us to find our own van. So we met with them. We had them design a van based around what we wanted. And the cost to have them talk with us and design the van on their computer was $2,000. With that design, we could go anywhere else we wanted, but ultimately we ended up having them build our van out. The design for our van ended up being called the Snow Chaser, which is a great name. You can look up all the specifications if you're interested on the East Coast Van Builds website. The next task was to actually find a van. Matt from East Coast Van Builds was looking, we were looking, and we ended up lucking out and just happened to be driving by Lamoille Valley Ford in Hardwick. We saw a couple of vans in their lot and we pulled right over and ended up purchasing the van that very day. Once we'd made it this far in the van quest, we were so excited to get out on the road. But of course, patience here is key. Here we are with Matt on pickup day. We expected the conversion to take about 6 months, but with the supply chain delays, not to mention COVID itself, which didn't spare the East Coast Van Build folks, it ended up taking 8 months. While we waited, we dreamed and planned for adventures in the van. So now it's time for a tour of our finished van so you can look at each of the decisions we made and think about what ideas would work best for you in your van. This is Mark sitting in our spacious dining and work area. So one of the very first decisions you need to make when you're designing your van is how do you want your bed to work? Because based on that, it changes a lot of other things in your design. So I'm sitting in our work area, dining room area right now, and I have our table, our Lagoon table, sort of down as far as it can go and pushed away. And I'm going to put our cushions down and then show you that our bed comes down from the ceiling. Okay. And so we're able to keep our bed staying as a bed all day long. And we can put it down anytime we want. It's kind of handy to store your sunshades up there. And so you can just get up on here. There we go. So when we borrowed our friend's van, we had to keep turning the table back into the bed each night. And then when we wanted a table, we had to clean up all of the bedding, put all that away, and get the table set up. Now, Mark works from the van, so he really needs it to be able to work seamlessly, and having your bed rise up to the ceiling works really, really well for us. I've also seen designs where people have Murphy beds that go up on the side of the van, and that way they're able to leave their table set up the way it is. So you kind of have to decide that early on. That's one of the very first decisions that you're going to want to make. So this is what it looks like underneath the bench on the left side of the dining area. And you could see that with the table moved out of the way, you can lift up the benches and take a look at underneath. Now this white box is a 30-gallon freshwater tank. And then up here in this front compartment is our Eberspacher heater. It runs off the gas tank and does a really nice job of heating the whole compartment really well. Here's the vent where the heat comes out. And then there's a panel here where you can adjust the temperature, you can put it on a timer, and you can increase the airflow. It's really quite a wonderful heater and works really, really well. Now this side of the compartment is just perfect length for a pair of skis. And when I show you from the back, you'll see that there's a place for a second pair of skis right underneath there. So that's how we're able to transport our skis when we're traveling. The benches on the right-hand side, underneath those, We have our Sterling DC charger, and then we have our Victron solar charger. So both of those provide energy for our battery, and you can't really see our batteries. They're down underneath the inverter charger. So this is all really very new to me. I've been studying and learning a lot about how all of this works. But basically, the Sterling gets energy off of the alternator when we're running the vehicle or when we're plugged in to shore power. And the solar charger gets the energy from the solar panel on the roof of our van, which I'll show you later. And there's just a little bit of space in here. We have, those are our little, fold out chairs in those black bags. That's a little portable fan that we have. And typically we keep, extra pairs of shoes in here. So this is just like a little storage area. Our fuses are here. We have a fuse box. So this is where really all the power comes from. And super important little cubby hole. You can see here that we have a display for our inverter, so we can see how things are going. We can monitor that. And then we also have switches for turning on our water pump and turning on our macerator, which is something that you use to drain water from your sink. And these two lights just tell us that the batteries are on. Okay, so now for the sink area. The sink has this handy cutting board that fits right in the opening, for one thing. And so we decided to put our sink here on the sliding door side of the van for a very good reason, and that is that we can use it as our sink faucet, but it can also turn this way and be used outside the van for quick showers or for washing off muddy bikes or shoes. We get hot water and cold water here, so it's very convenient to have it where it's accessible to the outside of the van also, just for a quick clean off. So we have a little pump here, makes the water come out. So there's that, and then there's a macerator that removes the water, sucks it down into the gray water tank, which is on the outside of the vehicle underneath. And I can show you that when we go outside. But the macerator makes a lot of noise, but it sucks the water out and down and through. There we go. Okay. Another handy thing is to always have these microfiber towels in your van. They're just great for everything. That's kind of off the topic of this cupboard. Now in this cupboard, there's this little door where we keep it's a very small space with enough dish detergent, a sponge, some hot pads, ibuprofen, that little cupboard. And then this cupboard we use for food. We store our food in there, and we don't really have any food in here right now. When you're not using your van, FYI, do not put food in it. You will get mice, especially around here in Vermont. All right, so in the cupboard underneath, this is a nice big cupboard. Each of us, this is where we keep our clothes, and each of us gets one Tupperware container for our clothes. We do our laundry over 4 to 5 days, so this is plenty of space for what you might need. We did our very first trip in the van was a ski trip, and so we did have to pack some bulky warm clothes. They wouldn't all fit in here, so we had like our ski jackets and ski pants and stuff like that. We put in a box on the back of the van with our with our bike rack. And I'll show you that later too. The other thing we keep down here is an induction cooktop. Now, a lot of people, when they build their vans, this is built into the kitchen countertop somewhere. But when we borrowed our van from our friend, we discovered that that wasn't as convenient as it seems, because the cooktop is constantly in your way and on your counter. And I think it takes a little more wear and tear to your cooktop, because you're constantly putting things on there, and God forbid if you put something on there when the thing was hot. So you have to be really careful if it's out built in. So it's really nice also that you can have it inside the van or take it outside when it's like this. So we opted to have it. We had to make space in the cupboard for it, but I think it's well worth that. So there's that. I want to bring this down here to show you this, because this is something, maybe a mistake you can avoid. This part of the cupboard is for our pots and pans, and you can see it looks pretty messy under here. I had to use plumber cement on the joints where they met. I did replace one washer, and that helped, but after you drive a little bit in a brand new conversion, you know, you find things get loose and leak, and every time I would get it to stop leaking and then I'd drive again, it would start leaking again. So somewhere new. So in the end, I just went crazy with the plumber's cement. I probably should have called a real plumber, maybe gotten some advice, but at the moment, I've gone 8,000 miles and it hasn't leaked again. So that's all good, but it just looks ugly. So definitely might want to think about that. You can also see here inside here that these are really kind of well constructed. This is aluminum framing, and then the wood is around that. So it's really nice. These cupboards are really nice and easy to use. Well made. I'm enjoying them. And of course these little knobs lock them so they don't come flying open when you're driving. All right, so that is the sink cupboard, and now I'll show you the refrigerator. So on the other side of the van, we have a cupboard that holds a microwave, and we have our refrigerator and freezer. So I'll start with the refrigerator. The refrigerator, this is the brand of the refrigerator. I do not know how to pronounce that word. Refrigio? Sounds Italian. I don't really know. But anyway, the top drawer is the refrigerator, and the bottom drawer can either be a refrigerator or a freezer. So I'll show you the top drawer first. The top drawer is really pretty big, and this is really handy. You can put tall things in here and they don't fall over when you're driving. But that's the refrigerator space, and right now I have it powered off, so I'm trying to leave it open. Oh, I'm on a hill, so it may shut. I'll fix it later. And then here's the size of the freezer. There's the freezer. So you can set it to be all refrigerator or refrigerator freezer. I like having a freezer because, well, I like ice cream. And I also like to keep frozen vegetables because sometimes you just can't find fresh food, and it's, you know, it's just nice to be able to have, you know, some frozen green beans or something that you can just add to your dinner. So for me, it's the frozen veggies. Oh yes, and every refrigerator needs a statue of David, don't you think? All right, so that's the fridge. And then there's our paper towel holder. And then up here, we have a cupboard with a microwave. So we don't use the microwave a lot. That's one thing I could probably live without, but it is nice to have. So right now I don't have anything in here, but when we're traveling, this is where I keep my fruit bowl. And so this would typically have my colander that would be just full of, oranges, apples, bananas. It's a great place to keep your fruit, to be honest. So I use it as more as a storage, but it is really nice to have if you've got something in the freezer. Oftentimes I'll pack, frozen stew or something like that, and you can defrost it in the microwave really, really easily. And then right here, I just keep towels, placemats, a book of all our owner's manuals. It's very good to have those. So that's just a nice little cupboard right there. So I think that covers our whole kitchen. So that's the kitchen. The decision to have a toilet or not have a toilet inside your camper van. It's a pretty big decision, and it's a tough one to make because on the one hand, it's not such a big deal to just use the woods, as long as you're doing that properly, leaving no trace. However, a couple of situations that we got into when we borrowed our friend's van convinced us that having a toilet is something that we really wanted. We had some serious torrential downpours, middle of the night type situations, and honestly, squatting in the pouring rain, it's not enjoyable. And then you have to come back in and dry off and try to get back to sleep. So not the best. And then also just emergency food poisoning. We had a food poisoning situation on one of our trips, and it's just, sometimes you just have to go. So anyway, we made the decision to get a toilet. And so let me show you ours. It's pretty basic. Let me show you. It's what I love about it is you really just can't even tell it's there. Here's the refrigerator. And then this is what we call our potty closet. Here's our kitchen counter. You lift that up, and inside you can find your toilet. So, and the other nice thing about this, just as an aside, is that it's also, we call it the potty closet because we can keep a lot of things in here. We have our trash. We have a little tiny Shark vacuum cleaner. We have cleaning supplies. We have, extra toilet paper. It's just a great place to store things. And actually what's not in here right now that we normally put in is our laundry bag. So the potty's pretty simple. It's just a cassette toilet. So that's what it looks like. You use the potty. You flush, press a button, and it goes out to a little suitcase sort of thing. I call it our potty suitcase. And you access that from the side of the van outside, and you empty it every so often. So really, our potty is basically for emergencies. We don't use it all the time, but it is super nice to have. So I recommend it. I'm really happy with it. But it's a very personal decision, obviously. So we're coming around the side of the van so I can show you the little hatch. This is the little hatch which you open up to remove the little cassette. I call it a suitcase that holds the waste. And then you can go dump that into a regular toilet. It's not as gross as it sounds. It's actually pretty easy. The one tricky part is that you'll notice duct tape here. We broke the first latch the first time we tried to empty it. So getting this little hatch opened was a problem. And then we broke the second one the other time that we tried to open it. So now we just use duct tape to make sure that it stays closed when we don't want it to pop open. And it's a whole lot easier to open now. Sometime we'll get that fixed probably, but it was just extra difficult to get it open, and we just kept breaking them. Anyway, cassette toilet, awesome. So here is the bike rack and box that we have on the back of the van. And Mark's going to show you inside the van too. So
we're going to unlatch things back here. And then we can push this over and go inside the van.
oh, that cushion fell down when we were driving last night. Yeah, so there's the ski boxes I was talking about. So you can fit 2 pairs of skis quite easily. The other kind of cool thing is that you can look in this tiny little opening and check the level of the water tank. So that's just an added bonus as well. So that's what the van looks like from the back. And finally, the view of the roof shows the 400-watt solar panel and the ceiling fan. That concludes our tour of and origin story of Stan. The total cost of materials was $37,500 and our labor was $40,000. Quite an investment, so go into this process knowing that. We love our home away from home on wheels, so stay tuned for the adventures of Stan. Cheers!